Okay, so I want you to just close your eyes and think war, the classic. What do you probably see a guy, storming a bunker?
Okay. Or maybe manning a machine gun nest, something like that.
Exactly. It's almost always an image of aggressive act, of violence, really, dominance.
It's the Inchid York archetype.
Yeah.
We define martial heroism by the ability to inflict damage on the enemy to protect your own side.
Precisely. But today, we are looking at a story that completely, and I mean completely, inverts that logic.
Yeah.
We're talking about a soldier who ran into the absolute mouth of hell, the Battle of Okinawa, which is just one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. And he didn't just refuse to use a weapon.
He refused to even touch.
Yes, that's the thing. He didn't have a rifle, didn't have a pistol, he didn't even carry a combat knife, nothing.
It sounds like a suicide mission.
Huh.
Or, if you're looking at it from a military commander's perspective, it just sounds like a liability, a massive liability.
And that is the central paradox we are unpacking. We're doing deep dive into the story of Desmond Doss, who is the subject of that 2016 Mel Gibson film, Hacksaw Ridge.
A very intense film.
Oh, incredibly intense. And look, we have a massive stack of sources here. Yeah. We've got the historical citations from the Medal of Honor archives. We've got these really detailed breakdowns of the film's narrative.
And some fascinating psychological profiles on pacifism during wartime, which are really key to understanding it.
They are. So the mission today is to figure out how a man who called himself a conscientious cooperator survived the meat grinder of the Pacific Theater and saved 75 men without firing a single shot.
And I'm glad you used that term, conscientious cooperator, because it's so important.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, he's often mislabeled as a conscientious objector, but the distinction he made is vital. An objector, usually refuses to participate in the military machine at all.
They won't even enlist.
Exactly. But Doss, he wanted to serve. He felt a moral imperative to be there. He just had a very specific, unbreakable line in the sand about how he would serve.
But that line, refusing to kill in a war, that seems incredibly difficult to maintain when, bullets are flying and people are trying to...
Well, that's the understatement of the century.
The sources we have really emphasize the sheer brutality of Okinawa. I mean, this wasn't a skirmish. It was a mass. So I have to be the skeptic here for a second.
Go for it.
The headline is, saved 75 men. Is that a Hollywood number? Is that inflation for the movie poster? Because physically, dragging 75 grown men off a cliff in one night, it's impossible.
It does. It sounds like mythology.
Yeah.
And we will get into the specific, the mathematics and physics of that night later, because the how of it is just mind-boggling.
Okay.
But to answer your question directly, no, it is not Hollywood inflation. In fact, the source material shows that the Army actually credited him with saving 100 men.
Wait, 100?
100. Doss himself was the one who argued the number down to 50 because he felt 100 was too much credit. They eventually settled on 75 as the official compromise.
So the Army wanted to give him more credit, and he negotiated it down out of humility.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. That alone tells you something about the kind of person we're dealing with here. But okay, before we get to the cliff, to Hacksaw Ridge itself, we have to understand the man.
Absolutely.
You don't just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to walk into machine gun fire without a weapon. That kind of conviction has to be built. It has to come from somewhere deep.
It's forged. And in his case, it was forged in childhood. Our outline calls this section the brick in the belt. And that refers to two really specific and traumatic events that shaped his entire moral code.
And this all starts in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. The film and the biography both begin there, but it's not some, peaceful, idyllic childhood.
No, not at all. Right from the start, we see Desmond and his brother, Hal, fighting. And this isn't just like playful roughhousing.
No, it escalates. And in a fit of just pure rage, young Desmond grabs a book and he clocks his brother in the head with it.
And this is a pivotal moment in the psychological profile of Desmond Doss.
Why?
Our sources describe the immediate aftermath, the sari, the silence, the blood, the sudden horrifying realization that he didn't just hurt his brother, he almost killed him.
It's that flash of his own violence that terrifies.
Exactly. And the source material, the film analysis specifically, it points out how the camera pans to a poster on the wall of their home. It's a framed copy of the Ten Commandments.
And it focuses right on the thou shalt not kill.
It's an epiphany for him.
Yeah.
So for most people, thou shalt not kill is kind of a general guideline. It's abstract.
Right.
But for Desmond, in that moment, with that brick in his hand and his brother lying there unconscious, it became visceral. He saw the potential for murder inside himself, and he made a vow right then to never let that darkness out again. It's a reaction to his own capacity for violence.
But he wasn't just reacting to himself, was he? I mean, we have to talk about the father, Fig Tom Doss.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if Desmond represents this ideal of peace, his dad seems to represent the shattered, cynical reality of war.
Tom Doss is such a tragic figure. He's a World War I veteran, and he is a textbook case of what we would now call complex PTSD.
But back then, they didn't have that language for it.
No, in the 1920s and 30s, there was no diagnosis, there was no therapy. It was just shell shock, and you were basically expected to, drink it off or get over it.
And he's an alcoholic. He's deeply depressed, abusive.
Yeah, very. And there's a line in the script breakdown where the mother is trying to explain him to the kid. She says, he doesn't hate us, he hates himself.
That is such a heavy thing to lay on a kid. It suggests that the war never really ended for Tom Doss.
It never did. He is still fighting that war in his head. He goes to the cemetery to talk to his friends who died. He embodies this cynical view that war just destroys your soul. And this all comes to a head in the second origin.
The gun incident.
Right. There's a domestic dispute, a drunken rage, and the father actually pulls a gun on Desmond's mother.
And Desmond, just a teenager, has to physically wrestle the pistol away from his own father. The sources say this is the moment the vow is cemented. It's not just I won't kill anymore.
It becomes I will never touch a gun.
Because he sees the gun as the instrument that almost destroyed his family, the symbol of that trauma.
It's a fascinating dichotomy, isn't it? You have the father who believes violence is inevitable and sometimes necessary, and the son who now believes violence is a choice you can actively refuse. Desmond's pacifism isn't passive. It's an active rebellion against his father's trauma. He's determined to break that cycle.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Desmond grows up, and we enter the part of the story our outline calls courting Dorothy. Now, I'll be honest, in a lot of war movies, the romance subplot can feel like filler,
Oh, for sure. It's often just there to give the hero a girl's picture to look at in a foxhole.
Exact. But looking at the analysis here, this relationship seems to serve a more mechanical purpose in the story. It feels crucial.
It absolutely is. It grounds his motivation. He meets Dorothy Shutt, who's a nurse at the local hospital, and the context of how he meets her is so important. He's there donating blood.
Right, because he just saved a stranger from a car wreck using his belt as a tourniquet. The guy is just, compelled to save lives even before he...
It's just who he is.
But the way he pursues Dorothy, it's a little bit stalker-ish, isn't it? He goes back to give blood 2 days in a row just so he can talk to her.
Well, persistent might be a kinder word. The nurse literally has to tell him, "Sir, we can't take your blood 2 days in a row." But you're right, it's a bit obsessive.
But look at the dialogue the sources highlight. He says something like, "Ever since you stuck me with that needle, my heart's been beating real fast."
It's incredibly
so cheesy. But it works because it established character. He's simple, he's direct, he's completely sincere. There's no game playing.
And she gives him a book, an anatomy book. And this isn't just a prop.
No, this is the bridge to his military career.
Precisely. That anatomy book is what connects his desire to serve his country with his vow not to kill. He suddenly realizes that medicine is the loophole.
So he can be a medic?
Yes. If he becomes a medic, he can go to war, he can exhibit bravery, but he can do it by saving life instead of taking it. Dorothy, probably without even realizing it, hands him the key to his whole conscientious cooperator identity.
But then Pearl Harbor happens. The war is on. And Desmond feels this pull. He feels he has to go. This is the part I find psychologically fascinating.
Why enlist at all?
Right. He has a perfect excuse to stay home. He works in a defense plant, a shipyard, which means he has a deferment. He doesn't have to go. His dad is telling him he's going to die. Dorothy is terrified, so why do it?
It comes down to integrity. He tells Dorothy, loads of boys are going. He says he can't just sit at home and let other men fight for his freedom while he stays safe.
So it goes back to that distinction we made earlier.
It does. He isn't anti-war in a political sense. He's anti-killing in a deeply personal, religious sense. He believes in the cause. He just fundamentally disagrees with the method of the individual soldier.
So he proposes, and his proposal line is, "I'm a great marrier," which is just an awful line.
Truly terrible.
But she accepts, and he ships out to boot camp. And this is where the movie and the reality, it shifts from a family drama into more of a psychological thriller.
Well said.
Because boot camp is designed to do one thing, break you down and rebuild you as a killer. And Desmond Doss is, by his very nature, unrebuilt.
He is a wrench in the gears of the U.S. Army. You have to understand the military mindset in 1942. Unit cohesion is everything.
It's life or death.
It's life or death. You have to rely on the guy next to you to shoot the enemy before the enemy shoots you. So if the guy next to you refuses to even hold a rifle, he's terrifying. He represents a gap in the armor.
The sources break down the dynamics of his unit pretty well. You've got the drill sergeant, played by Vic Vaughn in the film, who's just roasting everyone.
Standard procedure.
Yeah, he calls the Native American soldier chief. He mocks the guy they call Hollywood for doing pull-ups naked. It's brutal, but it's a standard kind of bonding by trauma. But then he gets to Doss.
And Doss refuses the rifle. This is the central conflict. The sergeant tries to force it on him, and Doss just calmly says, I was told I don't have to carry a weapon.
And here's the clash. The military bureaucracy had promised him one thing, that he could be a medic. But the infantry training doctrine says everyone is a rifleman first, no exceptions.
And this triggers a massive back. The captain argues that Doss is a liability. And let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay. If you're that captain, you're not wrong, are you? If you're leading men into combat, don't you want every single one of them to be able to return fire?
From a tactical standpoint, absolutely. The captain isn't portrayed as a villain. He's a pragmatist. He genuinely believes Doss is going to get people killed. He tells him, you can't save others if you can't protect yourself.
It's a logical argument.
A completely logical argument. And because Doss won't quit, they decide to make his life hell so that he will quit.
And they weaponize peer pressure. The source material notes that the entire unit gets punished, their weekend passes are revoked, they're forced on extra grueling hikes, all specifically because of Doss.
They're trying to turn the other soldiers against him, and it worked.
For a while.
Yeah.
Which leads to the physical abuse. There's the scene where he's eaten in his sleep, he wakes up, bruised over half his body.
But this is a crucial character moment.
Yeah.
Because the next day, the sergeant asks him who did it, and he refuses to name his attackers. He just says, I sleep pretty hard.
That's the first little crack in the unit's hatred, isn't it? They still think he's a coward or crazy, but they realize he's not a snitch. There's something tough about him.
He has a different kind of tough, but the Army doesn't care about that. They care about compliance. So they try to discharge him on a Section 8 for mental instability.
Which is a heavy label. In the 1940s, a Section 8 would follow you for life. It meant you were feeble-minded or insane.
The psychiatrist interviews him, fully expecting to find a lunatic. But instead, he finds this young man with a completely coherent, rational, and deeply held religious conviction. The doctor basically has to admit, you can't commit a man strictly for his religious belief. He's not crazy.
So the easy way out fails. They have to go the hard way, a court-martial. They give him a direct order to pick up a rifle. Now he's facing prison time. This is the legal climax of the training section.
And this is where his father's arc kind of resolves. Yeah. Tom Doss, the broken WWII vet who hated the idea of his son enlisting, puts on his old dusty uniform.
A uniform he seemed to hate.
Right. And he goes to Washington, or at least contacts his old superiors, and he pulls a string. He comes back with a letter from a brigadier general.
What is the letter?
It states that Desmond's refusal to bear arms is protected by the Constitution and by acts of Congress regarding conscientious objectors. The charges have to be dropped.
It's a huge victory. But the officers deliver this chilling warning. They essentially say, fine, you win, you can go to war, but don't expect us to save you when you're out there defenseless.
He wins the right to enter the meat grinder without a shield.
And that brings us to Okinawa, the Maeda Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge.
Yep.
The sources describe the arrival at Okinawa so vivid. The unit Doss is with the 77th Infantry Division. They're relieving the 96th, and the guys coming off the line, they look like
hollow eye, the script breakdown said. They're completely shell-shocked, and it shatters whatever bravado Doss's unit had on the transport. They see what they're walking into.
Yeah, and what are they walking?
Okinawa was the final stop before the planned invasion of mainland Japan. The Japanese strategy had totally changed. They weren't fighting on the beaches anymore. They were digging in. They had created this massive network of tunnels, spider holes, and bunkers just honeycombed into the rock.
They called it the meat grinder for a reason.
Exactly. You couldn't see the enemy until they were right on top of you, killing you.
And the terrain itself. Hacksaw Ridge is a 400-foot cliff. The Americans had to climb these cargo nets just to get to the battle. And once you got to the top, you were on this flat plateau that was pre-sighted by Japanese artillery and machine guns. A total kill zone.
The visual sources and the film analysis really emphasize the gore here. And I know for some listeners it might sound gratuitous, but it serves a narrative function.
It establishes the stakes.
It establishes hell on earth. You see bodies blown apart, what the script calls raining blood, rats eating corpses, maggots. It is the absolute worst environment imaginable that Doss, with his thou shalt not kill commandment, is about to walk in.
So the attack begins. It's just chaos. The Americans are getting absolutely chewed up. And in the middle of all this, you have Desmond Doss running around like a madman, not shooting, but grabbing wounded guys, dragging them back.
He's treating people while mortar rounds are landing feet away from him. It's insane.
And this is where the unit's perception of him just flips entirely. There's that moment in a foxhole with Smitty, the guy who bullied him the most back in training.
They're stuck overnight.
And Smitty has seen Doss run into the fire all day long, and he finally just apologizes. He says, I got you very wrong.
It's the validation Doss never asked for, but probably needed. He's one of them now, in their eyes. But the real test, the big one, comes the next day. The Japanese launch a massive counterattack.
We're talking banzai charges, overwhelmed positions, the order comes down, retreat.
And everyone does. The officers, the riflemen, they all scramble back down those cargo nets to the beach below, except for one man.
Desmond Doss,
Ugh.
alone, on a plateau that is now swarming with enemy soldiers who are systematically executing any wounded Americans they find.
And this is the miracle section of our outline.
It is, and this is where I need you to explain the logistics to me again, because it still seems impossible. How does one skinny kid from Virginia move 75 broken, bleeding bodies to a cliff edge without getting caught?
It's a combination of stealth, adrenaline, and pure, brilliant tactical improvisation. Doss realizes he can't carry them down the net. It's too slow, they're too heavy. So he builds a pulley system, a rope. He finds a rope, wraps it around a sturdy tree stump near the edge of the cliff, and he uses a very specific knot, the double bowline knot.
Which is the knot the drill sergeant made fun of him for tying back in boot camp.
The very same one. The sergeant said something like, "You're not building a bra, Doss." And now that exact knot is the literal lifeline for dozens of men.
So what's special about
The double bowline is crucial because it creates two loops that don't slip or tighten under load. So he could put a soldier's legs through the loop, creating a kind of makeshift harness, and then lower them down the 400-foot cliff face.
But think about the physics of that. A soldier with all gear weighs, what, 160, 180 pounds, maybe more? Doss has to lower that weight hand over hand using only the friction of the rope on stump scent.
And he does this 75 times.
The physical exertion alone. His hands must have been shredded.
The sources confirm his hands were raw, bleeding, and had deep cuts from the rope. He was dehydrated, totally exhausted, and every single time he lowered a man to safety, he would pray. His mantra was, "Lord, please help me get one more."
That phrase just sticks with me. Lord, help me get one more. He didn't look at the whole battlefield and say, I need to save everyone.
He compartmentalized. He focused on the immediate task, just one more. It's an incredible lesson in focus and faith, I suppose.
And he wasn't selective. He found Smitty, the bully, and realized that Smitty had died. But Doss lowered his body down anyway.
Because he refused to leave a man behind, alive or dead. And there are even reports, which the movie shows, of him finding wounded Japanese soldiers in the tunnels and treating their wounds.
That is the ultimate test of his faith, isn't it? Love your enemy. Treating the very person who was trying to kill you moments before. It's almost incomprehensible to the average.
It really is. And for 12 hours, he worked that ridge. The men down below just couldn't believe what they were seeing. Bodies just kept coming down the cliff on this rope. They called it a miracle because tactically, he should have been spotted and killed 10, 20 times over.
So eventually, he comes down, he saved his sergeant, he saved the guys who mocked him and beat him up. The official count is tallied, and the next day, the captain tells the unit, we have to go back up. We have to take that ridge.
But the morale, the entire dynamic of the unit has shifted completely.
I refuse to go.
They refuse to go without Desmond Doss. He has become their talisman, their good luck charm. They believe that God is protecting Doss, so if they are near him, they might be safe too.
Which leads to one of the most surreal scenes in military history. The next attack is scheduled for that morning. But Doss is a Seventh-day Adventist. It's Saturday, it's his Sabbath, and he's praying.
And the entire U.S. invasion force on that front waits for him to finish his prayer.
Can you just imagine the radio chatter? What's the holdup? Well, sir, the medic is praying. It's incredible. They waited. And when they went up that time, they took the risk. But Doss doesn't walk away unscathed this time. His luck or his divine protection takes a hit. A grenade lands in a foxhole with him and his men.
And this is just so consistent with his character. He doesn't jump out of the hole to save himself. He tries to kick the grenade away to save the others.
And it detonates. He gets shredded by shrapnel all up his legs.
And even then, as they are carrying him off on a stretcher, which is a great visual callback to the opening shot of the film, he spots another wounded soldier.
And he rolls off his own stretcher and tells the medics to take the other guy.
Pathological selflessness. But there's one final detail that I think is so moving. As he's being evacuated, he realizes his Bible, the little pocket Bible Dorothy gave him, is gone. It must have fallen out in the chaos.
And the same guys who threw their boots at him in boot camp, they go back into the active fires.
They risk their lives, scouring the battlefield until they find that Bible and they get it back to him. It's the ultimate sign of respect. They risked their life for his book because they finally understood what it meant to him and what he meant to them.
It's a complete arc. He went from being the absolute pariah of the unit to being the heart unit.
Absolutely.
Now, the movie pretty much ends with his evacuation.
Yeah.
But the postscript, the reality of Desmond Doss's life after the war, it's just as fascinating. We mentioned the Medal of Honor. He received it from President Truman.
He did. The first conscientious objector to ever receive it. And Truman apparently told him, I'm more proud of this medal than of being president.
Wow. That is a massive statement.
Huge.
And he and Dorothy, they made it. They stayed married until her death in 1991. The great marrier actually lived up to his word.
He did. But there's one specific anecdote from the documentary footage, from the real Desmond Doss speaking, that I think sums this whole thing up better than any analysis we can possibly do.
What's that?
It's the story of the blind soldier.
Oh, this one got me. Yeah, tell the listener.
So Doss is treating a soldier up on the ridge, and the man has blood and dirt and mud caked in his eyes, and he's just screaming, "I'm blind, I'm blind." He's panicking.
Utterly terrified.
And Doss just calmly takes his canteen, pours some water, and washes out the guy's eyes. And the soldier blinks a few times and realizes he can see, and he just smiles. And Doss said that the smile on that one man's face, that was the only reward he ever needed. That repaid him for everything.
It wasn't about the medal. It wasn't about proving a point to his dad or the army. It was just about that smile, that one moment of relief.
It's service in its purest, most distilled form.
So let's try to land the plane here. We've gone from a kid hitting his brother with a brick to a man saving 75 lives in literally the most hostile environment on Earth. When we look at the whole story of Desmond Doss, what's the real? Because it's easy to just say he was brave, but it feels so much deeper.
I think the takeaway is a redefinition of we are conditioned, especially in the context of war or any conflict, to view strength as the ability to dominate.
To overpower someone.
Yeah, to win through force. Desmond Doss suggests that there's a different and maybe even harder kind of strength.
Strength of conviction.
Precise. The inner strength to stand by your principle when literally everyone, your father, your government, your peers, the law itself is telling you that you are wrong. It's the courage to be the only person in the room saying no to violence, even when violence is the only currency of the day.
It reminds me of that old quote about how it's easy to stand with the crowd, but it takes real courage to stand. Doss stood alone on that ridge, quite literally.
And in doing so, he didn't just save those men's lives. In a way, he saved their humanity, too. He showed them that even in hell, you can hold on to your soul.
That is a really powerful thought. In a world that so often demands we compromise to fit in or tells us we have to be successful, Desmond Doss is proof that sticking to your guns, or refusing to pick one up, can actually change the world.
Or, at the very least, it can save 75 worlds. Because as the Talmud says, whoever saves one life saves the world entire.
Well said. And for watch the actual documentary footage of Doss, seeing the real man, so humble and quiet, describe these events.
It's a true masterclass in integrity.
That is it for this deep dive into Hacksaw Ridge and the incredible life of Desmond Doss. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources and another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.